positions in professional and civic organizations and served as a library volunteer for several decades, taking a particular interest in the summer reading program. Now I turn over to Melissa Ryans, the Adult Multicultural Program Librarian, to provide an overview of our event.
February 2026 marks a century of Black History Month, a time to honor the achievements and resilience of Black Americans who shaped our culture, education. Dr. Carter G. Woodson has garnered civilization. Black History Month reminds us that Black history is American history. Black History Month reminds us that Black history is American history. It calls us to look beyond familiar names and discover the countless stories that continue to shape our future. Now, I turn it over to Assistant Manager D.M. McLaughlin to introduce our performer for this evening.
I'll introduce our performer. Madison Thomas is a Houston-born African-American. Madison Thomas is a Houston-born African-American vocalist and musician whose artistry in South. Raised in Texas, she learned performing rather than formal schooling, where spirituals and gospel music was passed down in living history. For this program, Thomas will present a curated selection of African Americans spirituals, honoring their historical heritage and personal journey as a church-trained musician. Let's give.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. If you know some of these songs, you can sing with me. If not, I'll sing it for you. Why should my heart feel so lonely and alone when Jesus is my portion, a constant friend is on the sparrow. And I know He watches, I know He watches, His eyes, He watches me. Sing because I'm happy. And I see His eyes are on the sparrows, and I know He watches. I I feel the next one. One thing I need to say about this song, for those who may have not heard this, is back in the day, it was repetitive so that it would sink in. So I understand you're like, where's the next verse? It was it. So if you ever go to a gospel church and you hear them repeat that verse and you hear like the organ going in and the preacher, it's more so us chanting ourselves back into that resilience, back into that state of being. It's meditative. So that was I Feel No Way Is Tired. This is the Negro National Anthem. Usually you would rise, but I'm not actually doing that. If you do know part of it, you can definitely sing it with me. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the horn, joy sing, rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. stony the road, till in the days when, yet with a steady beat, have not a prayer which our Father sighed. We have come over away with the tears that been washed through the blood of the slaughter, out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last where the white flame, God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us good, who has by thy mind led us into the light, keep us forever in the past. Rest our feet straight from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thy hand. May we forever stand true to our God. That was Lift Every Voice, the national anthem. Swing low, sweet chariot. Swing low, sweet chariot. Oh, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming forth to carry me home. Coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet, carry me home. The blood will never lose its power. If you know this one, you're very welcome to sing with me. The blood that Jesus shed way back on Calvary. my rendition of Wade in the Water. It's a little bit more jazzy. Trouble, trouble, got some trouble. Wade in the water, host all dressed in white. God's go to trouble in the water. He looks like in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's go to trouble in the water. Trouble in the water, wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. Let's go trouble in the water. If you don't believe I've been redeemed, God's go to trouble in the water. Follow me down in Jordan's stream. Let's go to trouble in the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water. Trouble in the water. God's go to trouble, God's go to trouble, God's go to trouble, God's go to trouble in the water. Thank you. Make sure before you leave, get some pamphlets about our early literacy program at Houston Public Library. Let's connect communities together by even influencing our nieces, cousins, nephews. Let them great day.
Guys, some of the displays, and as soon as they arrive, we will make an announcement to have you guys come back. I do apologize. How are you?
Actually, this almost actually got me this week. Each library has like almost 7 years. Yeah, we usually send them on a book sale.
Hello, everyone. I'm here to introduce Mr. Harper Waters. Born in New Hampshire and raised in Dover, Harper Waters trained at Portsmouth School of Ballet as a principal dancer with the Houston Ballet, making history in 2024 as the company Stone celebrated nationally, toured internationally. Beyond the stage, he's a cultural trailblazer, featured in ads and campaigns for Ralph Lauren's social media presence to bridge ballet and popular culture. Committed to advocacy, Harper chaired the Montrose Center Gala in 2024, supporting LGBTQ+ Houstonians and champions representation and equity in the arts, dancers, and dreamers.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for that intro. I'm really busy rehearsing, so I actually just came from a beautiful run of the Ballet Sylvia, which we open at the end of the month. So this is my shameless plug to come see the arts, come see the best ballet company in the world, if I do say so myself. Immediately said yes. I mean, it's an incredible opportunity, and then after saying yes, I quickly realized that I actually had to organize my thoughts, put them on paper, and hopefully sound somewhat articulate. I realized while writing this that the skill I have honed in channeling my thoughts into movement. Do I start when I was adopted at 2 weeks old from Atlanta, Georgia, to 2 English professors? Or do I start with how Miss J. Alexander on America's Next Top Model was the reason I decided to come up to my girlfriend in 8th grade? I was searching for a starting point. I was looking back. Something I do often to find inspiration. When I think about my work, much of it has been shaped by looking backward. Not necessarily backward to be nostalgic and not backward in longing, but backward in recognition. I'm constantly searching for the images and moments that first reached me before I had the words to explain why they mattered. The image of the one black dancer in the corps de ballet of the snow scene in New York City Ballet's production of The Nutcracker, starring Macaulay Culkin on VHS. Dominique Dawes at the Olympics, hitting her beam routine and forcing my dad to build me a balance beam. Those early images didn't teach me technique or provide me a lesson plan for how to go through life. They didn't teach me how to dance. They taught me why I needed to. Continuously reaching backward to propel myself forward. I felt it as recognition before I understood it as history. My parents used to take me to see dance performances at the University of New Hampshire, where my dad was a professor. When companies came through like Mark Morris and Paul Taylor, we would all go. Sometimes I would dread going and rather stay home, as the performances would sometimes feel like they dragged on, except for the night we went to go see Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, or as they desperately run from Divine Judgment. Of growing up in Texas, specifically reflecting his own experience of being baptized in a creek behind his church. As the Ailey dancers performed Ailey's iconic work, their strength, their physicality, the confidence in how they moved, it felt different from anything I'd seen before. It felt like looking into the mirror of a future I didn't know how. The possibility stayed with me. There was no dragging on. It was like time stopped. As I sat in the theater, the intrigue of seeing that one black dancer as a snowflake and the excitement for Dominique Dawes began to grow. What started as interest began to transform the idea. All I knew was that I needed to make it happen. For the first time, I could see myself in the body of a dancer. So while that night didn't necessarily answer any questions for me, Alvin Ailey, his work, and his dancers certainly gave me direction. And that direction started in the form of trust. That feeling of trust in myself and the images that I look back on stayed with me as I moved through summer intensives, training programs, and years of learning what it meant to commit fully to dance. Eventually, it led me to Houston Ballet 2, the second company of Houston Ballet. Up until that point, Black dance history had lived in front of me, on screens, on stages, in images I admired from a distance. But that year was the first time I felt distant and suddenly felt personal. During my first year in the second company, we went on tour. It was my first time dancing as a professional, my first time representing Houston Ballet, my first time stepping onto a stage, not as a student, but as someone whose body now carried responsibility. And of all was back at the University of New Hampshire, the same campus where I had first seen Alvin Ailey. After the performance, I frantically looked around to find the beneath Alvin Ailey company dancers' signatures. Standing there, looking at the names of the Ailey dancers who I idolized and now saw my name right under, past and present seemed to collide. That was the first time I understood that lineage is symbolic. It's physical. It shows up in rooms you stand in, names you stand beside, and responsibility you suddenly carry, whether you feel ready for it towards Alvin Ailey. Now let me just say what a fabulous path to be put on, but often it has to do with the color of our skin, not the quality of our dancing, or just the simple fact of seeing that success can be achieved in that company, with the number of Black dancers as evidence. However, we lose the ability to have choice in the style and vocabulary we want to pursue. What seems, but because it showed me that Black dancers could exist anywhere. It was the style required to audition to be part of the company, and so as I demandingly pushed to take more ballet classes, I began to take a liking to the classical ballet form. In pursuing a predominantly white space, a space that could be seen as a problem to enter, and one I definitely viewed as one, how would I fit in? Was I even allowed to fit in? That's what I would ask myself, but I trusted my capabilities and found myself standing backstage at that theater, a member of a classical ballet second company. By that, I moved again at 16 to join Houston Ballet 2, but in that moment, something really settled. I recently finished reading the book Letters to a Young Artist by Anna Deavere Smith, and it's had a profound impact on my thinking as of late, especially as I wrote this. Things about being an artist is that solving problems always comes down to embracing our vulnerabilities, sharing the things that make us human. When I looked at the signatures on the wall of the theater, I realized I had solved the problem, or rather begun to. The problem of believing I had to separate who I was from the second company of Houston Ballet 2, but I was so eager to get into the main company. I had always wanted to be standing where I was in that moment. I couldn't believe I had become the dancer I dreamed of with the help of the dancers that I had seen on that exact same stage. I thought about how I embraced the fact that I would most likely be the only Black boy in the audition for summer programs. I didn't ignore the feeling of all eyes on me. I tried to use it as an opportunity, like my identity was being inherited into a lineage. I had experienced the power of visibility as currency. The Alvin Ailey permission slip had worked, but there was still so much more work to be done. Another quote from Letters to a Young Artist was, quote, "To develop a voice, you must first develop an ear. Learn how to see the marks of others, especially those who were never fully recognized." I joined Houston Ballet in 2011 as an apprentice, stage at the University of New Hampshire, staring at the Alvin Ailey signatures on the wall and hoping one day to belong in that lineage, had made it. Or at least, that's what I believed at the time. However, that same year, I was called into a meeting with my director. I thought it was going to be about maybe how I was struggling with my double tours or needed to work on some specific choreography. I had achieved getting a company contract following 2 years in HB2, but although it was unclear to me at the time, I was in fact demonstrating that I had no further intention of progressing. I thought the hardest work was behind me, that the years of training, sacrifice, and uncertainty had been the test. I didn't realize entirely. It was time for me to reach back again to the lineage of images that brought me to Houston and rely on them to pull me further forward again. Our responsibility as an artist is to have intention behind the moves. It wasn't enough to know the steps, to be on the right count and be on the right mark. All that was secondary to the purpose of performance. Although our art form is a silent one, what seemed unanimous to the images I would reference was the clear volume and boldness of their voices. Developing my vision required me to learn how to see what is present and what is missing, and developing my mark meant understanding the marks that came before me, who created space without being given it. Their work shaped the environment I entered, even when their names weren't always spoken. My ballet fairy godmother, Miss Lauren Anderson, the historic American ballet dancer known for becoming the first African-American principal dancer at the Houston Ballet. Ballet company anywhere in the world. As I embraced the lineage I was quite literally dancing on in the studios of Houston Ballet, as I began trying to bring it in 2011, I came to a very important realization. There is often a double awareness that Black dancers carry. One part of the body moves freely, while another part is acutely aware of how that movement will be received, of not seeing ourselves reflected in companies, of being asked to make ourselves smaller, to soften presence, straighten our hair, lighten our makeup, quiet something essential, of learning early that excellence is often required simply to be allowed. I understand that it was also inheritance, knowledge passed down through bodies that had already navigated these spaces before me. But inheritance doesn't always feel like guidance at first. Sometimes it feels like weight. That awareness created a need to be impeccable. I began trying safe instead of searching. And without realizing it, I had given in to that pressure. That's what created the roadblock. My movement became careful. My thinking became narrow. I had achieved the goal of arriving, but externally it read as complacency. What changed was not being told to work harder. What changed was looking back again. Returning to the images and artists that first gave me that trust in myself and reminded me before me did not move carefully. They moved decisively. They weren't waiting to be fully understood before taking up space. They moved with conviction first and understanding followed. As if I were being watched, I could dance as if I belonged. I remembered the words of Debbie Allen, who told me when she visited Houston Ballet. She said, quote, "Do the work to be beautiful and free." Black dancers inherit joy as a form of resistance. They inherit a tradition of turning hardship into expression, survival into style. That history lives in the body, shaping how movement feels. But what is truly present is a body carrying centuries of adaptation, rhythm, grief, and triumph, moving not in spite of history, but with it. That was really transformative for me. And so I began to shift how I approached my work. Every time I stepped into the studio, I told myself, be an explorer. I learned fear is a feeling, sometimes a warning, or sometimes just unfamiliar territory. I had to learn the difference. I had to keep moving until my body understood that fear didn't mean stop, it meant grow. Sometimes you don't need the warning, and sometimes you do. I had to work through fear until my body got a better idea of what I can do, until it got a better idea that I didn't need that warning. Reaching backwards gave me that ability. I began moving through the ranks of the company. My promotions didn't come from trying to become someone else. They came when something shifted internally, usually after I encountered an image that showed me a new way to occupy my body. Albert Evans, performing in Ulysses Dove's Red Angels. There was power in how he moved. Finale, he was showing that he belonged. He taught me that authority could live in the body before it was acknowledged by the room, and that changed how I stood on stage. In 2016, I was promoted to demi-soloist at Houston Ballet. Desmond Richardson in Othello. Desmond Richardson made Hitler Lubovich's Othello. Seeing Desmond made me realize I didn't have to choose between strength and vulnerability, between classical form and emotional range. I could hold all of it. 2017, I was promoted to soloist. Bill T. Jones, Dean Jones carried dancer Damien Aquavella on his back, who was physically weakened by AIDS, on and off stage throughout performing the entire piece. That work taught me that movement could carry history, that dancing wasn't just about execution, but about holding something larger than yourself. 2021, I was promoted to first soloist. I believed what lineage had been teaching me. I returned to an image I had carried with me for years, the great Arthur Mitchell as Puck in A Midsummer Night's Dream. It wasn't just his brilliance as a dancer I saw in the image. It was the knowledge of the incredible legacy Puck, John Neumeier's production. I wasn't sure I could do it. I questioned whether the role was right for me, whether I was right for it. Arthur Mitchell, his fearlessness, his clarity, his ownership of space allowed me to fully immerse myself into the role. There were moments on stage where I was Puck, I was Arthur, I was Harper. It felt like I had unlocked what it truly meant to be a dancer. My voice was being heard. Where past and present once collided for me at the University of New Hampshire, Now dedication and identity were colliding in my body. In March of 2025, nearly 17 years too, and one that I thought if and when it happened, I would feel like, okay, I've arrived. But instead, it felt like that same feeling of continuation. Arrival was never the point, why it matters. Once the work was proving to myself that I could do it, now the work is becoming part of the image someone else believes in before they have the words for it. My career has been shaped by the visibility, choices, and when the route wasn't clearly marked. Their careers were roadmaps, their lives were permission slips. My life has been shaped by marks left long before I arrived, by images that found me early and stayed with me, by bodies that showed me what was possible without ever explaining it. And I look forward to continuously reaching backward. Thank you. Thank you guys. I was so nervous. Okay. I don't know if I leave now or ask questions. Yes.
Did anyone?
With the ticket, are you like the rehearsal that you're rehearsing for right now? Could you tell us where we can buy the tickets so that
Sure.
we may come see you?
Sure, yes. I mean, all the information will be at houstonballet.org. We perform at the Wortham Theater downtown, so I'm sure you could find information there, but houstonballet.org under events and performances.
Also, where can we follow you to watch your journey to
Oh.
like support you?
I have this little thing called Instagram and TikTok. People, like, before you follow me, I warn you, it's a lot. But so buckle up. But I don't mind if you just browse or give a like here and there. It's a big undertaking. But yes, yeah, of course.
Can you tell us what Sylvia is about?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so Sylvia is a Greek mythology trying to ruin that love story for each of them. There's a lot of power struggle, manipulation, love. There's gods, humans, mortals, and it really showcases the depth of our company and the skill of our company. I think that, in traveling the world and working with other companies, I'm just so impressed with the story. It is set amongst the gods and it is fantasy, but I think what's so beautiful about it is that it really just touches on real human emotions as well. I just think that Greek mythology is the vehicle to share it. Yeah, it's been so fun, and actually Sylvia was the first 3-act ballet that I ever did the lead in. A 3-act ballet is Romeo and Juliet, Swan Lake, the classics, and it's a real with just a different perspective of the character, and obviously the steps are a lot more familiar in the body because I've done it now, and so it's like I get to look at it with new eyes, and I'm just learning so much about the character of the shepherd that I dance as well. So it's been really fun to dive back into the story, and a lot of people are reprising. I really encourage you all to come. And also, after Sylvia, we open a ballet called Broken Wings by Annabelle Lopez Ochoa about Frida Kahlo. And it's a fantastic ballet. I'm not involved in it, but I've been peeking into the rehearsals and it looks just fantastic. I mean, spoiler alert, there's this humongous graphics and paintings that are interactive. So we're doing some things over at the Houston Ballet. Yeah.
You have accomplished some extraordinary things. What would you tell the younger Harper?
Oh my gosh. I don't know if it sounds really cliche, but I just feel like I would tell him, like, trust yourself and continue what you're doing. I realize in life that, like, I have to make it work and I have to do it, and I will do it even if I'm told no. But it's, like, interesting. I think I would just say, like, trust yourself and what I did, and I would overthink things. So maybe I would say that like just ignore the outside and just really just trust what you're doing. But I don't know, I'm a real big firm believer of everything happens for a reason, and I feel like every time that I felt overwhelmed or chaos was coming into my world as a person or an artist, it's like that's just was like a test of the nerves or the tenacity, and I feel like I overcame it. So so get ready for it. Yeah.
Is there anything that you think we should look forward to as far as your next move this year? Is there anything upcoming that you can talk about that's happening this year that?
It's really interesting. I was talking about being promoted, and I didn't really realize how much the goal of becoming a principal, and I just think that I was like living my life, the choices I made, all in the back of my mind were that could affect becoming a principal, or maybe this will benefit it. And when I achieved it, it was like I removed, in essence, sort of a lot of the motive kind of force was now gone, which opened my eyes to what I want to do next. And I feel like I experienced that in having to find new inspiration at work, and so it forced me to, I don't want to be too ahead of, but let me say, I will say that it involves something that you can find a lot of in a library. Yeah, my mom, she actually was a children's literature professor, and so reading was, I always used to say that like it's something that she introduced to me at a really young age, and I'm really grateful for. And I think that my mom is the smartest person that I know, and I think that she knew very early on the type of child that she had, and I think that nurtured and allowed me to explore and find my wings. And yeah, so the thing that involves this place really has been fun to work on with her.
Okay, so we don't have any more questions. Let's give Madison and Harper another round of applause. We appreciate you guys coming to our library and supporting us for our 100 African. I want to tell you about really briefly. We also have our African American read-in next week, right here in our space. It's going to be on the 17th, which is Tuesday. And we also have a Cultures Connection at Cynic Woods on the 21st at 11 a.m. We have the final wrap-up lecture from the 28th at 2 p.m. And before you guys leave, make sure you take a look at our Patterns of Liberation. It's our quilt display. It's our quilt exhibit that we have in our space, and it's part of the Underground Railroad, so the African American Black History Month quilts. And they all have a different story. They're all by different artists, and thanks for coming. And we do have flyers. Is that what you asked?
The Museum of Fine Arts.
Yes, the quilts were. They were displayed there. So they're in our space for our community and visitors to view. And we also have